Welcome to this presentation of Tableau. We're going to show some of its functionalities. We will actually see how Tableau works along with some of its programming abilities, how we can create illustration, how we can create graphs and further advanced features. Tableau proves to be an easy to use business intelligence tool. It connects data from different sources in order to represent reality through the created insights and the utilization of data. It comes now in two parts. The first part is the Tableau Prep and the second is Tableau. With Tableau Prep, the data are cleansed. Then these cleansed data are used in Tableau in order to create reports, create graphs, to create maps, and further advanced features like, for example, animated illustrations, among others. As it seems, Tableau Prep is a very new tool, but it is already being mastered. If I'm not wrong, it has been created and released at least in April 2018. Thank you very much for your. And now we are going to proceed by showing what we're going to talk about more or less. We have been through the short introduction. Then we're going to show how we connect to data in Tableau Prep. We're going to use Excel, but of course we could also use SQL sources or the cloud, but with Excel it's going to be much faster for our purposes. We're going to show certain functionalities of Tableau. We're going to show how we're going to adapt data. We're going to show how to create flows and clean the data using Tableau Prep. Then we're going to use R in order to adapt some data. As an example, R. We're going then to use the output in Tableau in order to create illustration and graphs. We're going to create dashboards, apply filters. As an example of advanced features, we're going to look at the animated visualization, and we're going to see a short example for presentation mode. Now, of course, we could do a lot more things, like, for example, creating stories, but for the purpose of this presentation and the time limits, we're going to concentrate on these basic features. And now we proceed by loading this data here: orders, customers, which we name people, and returns. Let's do that. We choose here Microsoft Excel. We're directly in the folder we need to use, so let's load orders. We have to wait a bit. And here now we can see the fields. Okay, what are the column names that are contained in this Excel mode? Of course, we can change the name if we need to. Now we're going to put back to normal. Of course, we can add filters and we can go to certain functionalities. We're going to glance these later. Let's add the other data also. Plus Microsoft Excel. We add our people. And let's also add our returned orders. Here to see what we have. It takes some time. So these are the return IDs. Now we're going to proceed with cleaning the data. This is the next step is an example of how we're going to cleanse the data. For this, we're going to adapt the data column that holds information for how each order was transported. How we're going to do that now? We're going to go to orders, and we're going to create a step, and we're going to see what appears. Now we see the field names, we see the data types, we see the sample data. We'll have to wait a bit for them to come up. What we're going to do now, we're going to go to transported by here. L is for lorry, S is for ship, T is for train. We can see here some of the examples. So they have one letter, but we want to create a new field. Where is an L, we're going to put the full word, which is lorry. Where is S, we're going to put the full word, which is ship. And where is T, we're going to put the full word, which is train. Now, how we are going to do that? We're going to go here, and we're going to create a so-called calculated field. And we have some script here already. Okay, we're going to name it calculate transportation mean, and this way we save time. We see that there are no mistakes, so we press apply and then we press save. It's actually very simple. So now if we go to the beginning, you can see lorry, ship, train. Ship, train, lorry. Now if we see here ship, the first row, of course it's ship. You see, ship, train, lorry, ship, train, lorry, etc. They correspond exactly. Now we're going to proceed by deleting some of the data that we don't need. In this case it is the old transported by, so we're going to press here remove field, and we see that everything is removed, and we're remained with the new data that we created just right here. On the same way, we're going to use order date in order to create an order year, an order month, and an order day. Now we have to know that this date transformation can take place by simple drop-down menu on the variable order date. If we use it, we're going to check that also later. Now we're going to use some code as a further and fast and simple demonstration for some programming on Tableau. Okay, just mentioning it just to make sure. So we're going to order date here. Sorry, here create calculated field. I'm going back, and I'm going to create an order date. One, save. I'm also going to create an order month. Apply, save, and I'm going to create an order year. So we have these examples also. Okay, year, month, day. I don't know why here we have 32, but I suppose that it is an error. What we're going to do now is to transform this year to string. It's going to be better to handle it later. The month for string and the day in string also. Let's see if in reality we have 31, not 32. Okay. Now the next thing that we're going to do is check on a list with all the changes that we have made up to now. Now the changes are here. We can go through all the changes that we have done. So it's good to have that. Now we're going to continue with applying filters. So this is an example how to create a filter. We're going to filter all the orders that took place on year 2015, month October, which is the 10th month, and they're transported by ship. Now we have also to note that this type of filtering can also be done with a simple right click and the drop down list, and we're going to see that again later, but for now we're using some code again in order to make a further example. So what we are doing here, we're going to use some of the ready-made code that we have here. We're going to go to the order year here. We're going to create a calculator field, and we're going to, oops, sorry, that was a mistake. We're going to create a filter. The filter is going to be the order year. Apply, save, very simply. Check, check, check. The month is order month 10. Very simple, really. Then transportation mean, we're going to also create a filter. Fast and easy as a ship. Now we see that all of our variables down here are on the year 2015. They're on month 10, which is month October. And of course, they're all shipped by a ship. We can see that here. So ship October 2015. Now we're going to remove all the filters because we need the data for what we're going to do later. But we know what it means. We're going to see further filters later in the dashboards. And now we're going to continue with something more simple. We're going to see how we can adapt the name of one of these columns. We simply double click and we alter the text as we want. Here we change customer name to customer full name. And as we see, it is changed in both of these fields. We can again see a list of all the changes that we have performed up to now. And what we can do now is actually to continue and save our workbook. So we're saving what we have done up to now. Now we're going to add some additional information, and we're going to use the aggregation function as an example. We're going to group data by order ID, and then we'll aggregate them for shipping costs, for profit, and for quantity. So I'm going to orders. We add an aggregation, and we group everything by the order ID, and we begin with profit as the first aggregated field. Let's have some more space here. We're going to continue with shipping costs, and we are going to continue with quantity. What we're going to continue with is to create another step in order to cleanse a bit further. What we're going to do now in this step is that we're going to further adapt the names. We're going to name order number, order ID to order number, profit to profit per order, shipping cost to shipping cost per order, and quantity to quantity per order. We're going to rename this step to new field names. And what we're going to do now is again to say that we can see all the changes in this specific step. And that's what we see here. And now we're going to join the results of data cleansing to the aggregation that we named new field names. We use drag and drop for this, and we'll continue by this way. Let's rename this data cleansing. Really very simple. And now we have created a join. Now we see a malfunction here that shouldn't be. Instead of matching order number to row ID to order ID, which is the same, it is confused and it's using row ID. And that's what I understand at least. So we have to remove that. Go to new field names. Now if we rename this to order ID and we repeat this step, logically it should identify it. Let's see what we have done. Perfect, order ID to order ID. Now if I go here again and I change order ID to order number, and then I go to the join again, we see order number from here, order ID from here. So data are joined. Of course in the join we can manipulate it as we want. You can see here the changes. So we keep only the match data. We're waiting for the results. And we can see here how they're matched. Now we have all of our data sources here. We have orders, we have customers, here we call them people, and we have the return orders. We can see the return data here. What we're going to do now is to proceed with connecting the orders returned to the results that we have here in join 1. How are we going to do that? We're going to take the returns that are here, we're going to go to join 1, and we're going to create a new join. This is what we have. Now how we can interpret this data. You can see that most of the order IDs are red. That means that they're not matched. In our case, we can interpret this that the red ones are orders that are not returned, which is good actually, because we see that we have more reds than matched, so, which means that only a few of our orders are returned. Then we're going to continue with adding the information of the people, which are the customers, which with the join that we again have, and we'll continue with exactly the same way. So these are the people that are associated to these orders that are to this join. So what we can see here is that these orders, here we have the returns, and here we have the customers that actually committed these orders. So we can see where they're from, for example. We can see the region. We can see that they're not from Canada, and they're not from Eastern Canada. These are unmatched. Now we have cleansed our example data using Tableau Prep, and we're going to continue with creating outputs. These outputs subsequently we will use in Tableau. How do we do that? We're going to plus, add output, output people, output orders return. Now we can save our work, and we can also save our outputs in order to use them later. We begin by saving them in the Tableau server. In this example, we're going to save them as asterisk hyperfiles. We continue with the basics of saving data. First, we're going to show how we're going to save the output in a folder, which is going to be visible here. And then we're going to continue by publishing on the online Tableau server. How we're going to save the file. Here we have the name ready. We accept the name. We run the flow. We wait a bit. Here it is. We have to wait for a while. And this is for the output for the actual customers. We call the file output people. Done. Let's continue with output for orders. Again, save the file. Again, the name ready. Accept. Run flow. Well, the time depends on the amount of data. Done. And now let's continue with publishing on the server. Here we have a dummy account on the server, dummy project, the name. I have saved it before for the previous presentation, so it will overwrite. I know the data are uploading on the server. When this upload is finished, we're going to see logically, we're going to see the browser opening. Here we are, replace, and we're going to see Tableau. And we're going to check on that when we finish with the posting on the server with both of these outputs. Now it takes more time than the file because it has to be uploaded. These are, I think, considerable amounts of data. We're speaking about roughly 20,000 lines, so it has to process it and then upload it. Okay, that was relatively fast. So here we see the browser. I'm already logged in. Okay. Now we are logged in on the server, and this is the first screen that we see when the data are actually uploaded. We see here output people, so the output that is uploaded on the server is in this screen. We're going to continue with output orders returned. Here again, publish as data source, same server, same project, same name as before in the previous presentation, so we're going to overwrite for one more time. Replace with the new data. And this is the outcome screen for output orders returned. What we can do now is very simple to click on it and connected workbooks. We can create a new workbook. You can save it online if we want. And connectors on this site, we're going to use the output orders returned. And we're just going to show a very short example because we're going to continue with Tableau, but this is the online version, and we can, for example, see the profit. So this is how it is, more or less. We are done. Now we have the actual hyperfiles, and what we're going to do is that we are going to open them in Tableau. Let's start with orders returned. You have to wait for a couple of minutes. Okay, faster than what I thought. Okay, here we are. At this point, we have our data opened in Tableau. Now we're going to proceed with some examples on what Tableau can do. We're going to use the extracted data in order to create reports, etc. The first thing that we're going to do is to create a sample report, and we're going to use some of the variables that are adapted using R, and we're going to create an example with predictive statistics. This is the initial screen of a worksheet. We're going to name this for now example report 01. We're going to change that later. What we are going to do now, we're going to connect to the R server. We're going to do that with settings and performance, manage external services connection, and this way we're going to connect to the R server. So when we run some code in run, Tableau will use the R server in order to run it. Very simple. Now we'll create again a calculated field. We will use profit in order to calculate expected profit. For this, we are going to use linear regression and a simple prediction model. So this is really a very simple example of what we can do. Create calculated field. Very nice. Let's see some of the ready-made code that we have. Here we're going to name this expected profit, and we're going to copy paste the script we have ready just to save time. Press apply, press OK, we're fine. Now the script that we have used is as follows. We're going to use profit per order, shipping cost, and quantity in order to see and predict profit. Then we're going to compare what profit we have in comparison to the profit that we were expecting to have. Now here we see profit per order, shipping cost, quantity, all of that in order to calculate expected profit. Now we're going to continue with creating the actual report. How are we going to do that? First of all, we want to compare everything in our example by country. So in our rows, it will be the country. Now in the columns, we're going to place the sum of profit, which is here, and the sum of the expected profit, or the aggregated profit. And we can actually change that to have its sum. No, it doesn't matter. We can see everything. We see here the profit, we can see here the expected profit. Of course we can change it. We can change the layout, but it doesn't really matter. Now we're going to create a step